Before I begin this video, I'd like to point out that broke, as we call it, is relative. Broke to me or you may be rich in the eyes of someone less fortunate. Broke to a former pro athlete may be an entire life savings 10 times over for a person in the workforce. Today's feature in 2020 is by no way flat broke, as in nothing to his name. But to a person that's accomplished the financial achievements he has in the past, that word may be a little more suited.
At the end of the day, they got to wake up tomorrow and have the same life that they had before they woke up today. And I'm going to continue to live the way I want to live and continue to do the things that I want to do.
Also, shout out to Seattle Hoop Scene on IG for helping make it clear about today's feature, who in Seattle is considered a legend for what he does in the community and in basketball to this day. In contact with Seattle Hoop Scene, I asked him, what do you think is the reason so many NBA players go broke after retirement? Here's what he had to say. Link to his IG in the description. Enjoy the short series, Stunted Broke, where not because you're talented means your checks are balanced, kid.
Now, we know most NBA players have a rags to riches story, meaning that they started off with nothing and they grinded hard and turned it into something, and became the sole provider for their family and their close friends, and we also know that money magnifies our character. And, if you were a generous person to start with, when you come into some bread, you're going to be generous to a fault, and you'll give without regret, you know what I mean? And if you mix that with the lack of financial literacy, it can put you in a serious bind, on the tail end of your career. In my mind, that could be one of the reasons why some guys go broke, you know what I mean? When they're done playing the game in the NBA, they pretty much balled out on themselves and, their family and their close friends, and it just put them in a bind. But, it's all good because if your heart is pure and your intentions are good, then, you always got action that bouncing back. So, in my mind, that's what it is.
60% of NBA players go broke and lose all their assets within 5 years of leaving the league. Studies show that the players that do usually do so because of lack of personal money management or the ability to find and employ someone that can do it for them. They have so much free time on their hands that most times spending money is more of a pastime, a thing to do with the hours in the day away from the gym, and sooner or later, all the money is gone. Things like shopping sprees, luxury houses that end up selling for significantly lower than they paid for it, cars, jewelry, family, and bad investments. In this new short series, we'll focus on the NBA players that actually went broke at some point as part of the reason their growth was stunted, while also looking at other reasons their careers took the nosedive it did. Stunted Broke, where not because you're talented means your checks are balanced, kid. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Next up, Shawn Travis Kemp, born November 26, 1969. From 1993 to 1998, Shawn Kemp was arguably a top 5 player in the NBA and one of, if not the best, 4-man in the league. There's no question that for his time, he was one of the most athletic and most entertaining due to his high-flying abilities that saw him live above the rim. At 6'10", 230 pounds in his prime, he was a physical specimen with the personality and 90s-era toughness to match. Had it not been for a very competitive Western Conference and a guy by the name of Michael Jordan that dominated the league in the 90s, Kemp may have been an NBA champion alongside his Hall of Fame point guard Gary Payton. Over the course of his career, he made over $90 million in salary and endorsement, but by the end of it, he was struggling to tread water and attempting an NBA comeback in 2005 after having not played in a game since '03. He would attempt to play another time, this time overseas, but the opportunity fell through for reasons I will explain. Kemp's story, although sad, is not to clown the former All-Star, but to continue the series of giving future athletes perspective on what it takes to be what many of them dream of becoming. They see the fancy cars and social media lifestyle, but don't always realize or have someone tell them what can happen if you let the following things into your life. He still had an amazing journey, which was at least exciting, I'm sure. But here's how he lost the majority of those millions and what turned him from a surefire Hall of Famer to a man on the outside looking in but may never enter the building. Stunt number 1, leaving Seattle. A huge downfall in Shawn Kemp's career was him leaving the Supersonics in his prime due to contract negotiation issues and burnt relationships that had developed because of it. But let's take it back to the time a stolen set of gold chains worth $700 almost cost him to not make the NBA at all. In high school during the late 80s, Kemp was a star at Concord High School in Indiana. He was a 4-year starter for his varsity team and led them to a sectional championship and also the state finals. He was his county's all-time leading scorer at the time and McDonald's All-American. But even with the success, he wasn't named Indiana's Mr. Basketball. Instead, the award was given to a chap named Woody Austin. Instead of staying in the state, which was huge in Indiana at the time like Woody did, he committed to play for the University of Kentucky. Many speculate that this decision was the reason he didn't win the award, although he was clearly the best player and even had a chance to go straight to the NBA had it been a more popular and better researched route. Kemp made his way to Kentucky, but because of him not having an SAT or ACT score adequate enough, he had to Prop 48 his first year, meaning he was ineligible to take part in team games. During this time, Kemp, with so much free time on his hands and lack of guidance, was accused by Eddie Sutton's son, Shawn Sutton, of stealing his gold chains and pawning them for $700. Sutton reported the theft, and Kemp was subsequently thrown off the basketball team, having never even suited up for the Wildcats. He had a chance to make things right and return to the program, but feeling slighted, Kemp decided to transfer to Trinity Valley Community College in Texas, where he spent a semester but didn't play for that program either. Instead, opting to make himself eligible for the NBA draft and train on the sideline for that. Shawn Sutton later changed his story and said that Kemp actually wasn't the thief and got bad intel from the guy who was about where the chains came from before he agreed to pawn them and split the money. Basically, college was a huge waste of time for Shawn and even made him slip to the 17th overall pick in the 1989 NBA draft to the Supersonics. Of the 16 guys taken before Kemp, he arguably had a better career than all of them, and definitely top 3. In his rookie season with the team, Kemp looked like a player that had no college-level experience, failing to crack the starting lineup all but one game and averaged 6 points and 4 rebounds in 13 minutes. He would begin to put it all together in his second year, where he averaged 15 points a game, 8.4 rebounds, started 66 of 81, and played over 30 minutes a game. He didn't look back. His production increased every year over the next 5 years, and the Rain Man moniker was born. A perennial double-double guy that made his free throws and was very reliable, always playing a high total number of games for the season. From 94 to 96, he was a 3-time All-NBA second-team performer, All-Star, and led his team to the finals, finishing second in the 96 Finals MVP voting. In 94, he signed a contract extension that he may or may not have known wouldn't be able to be adjusted until 1997. By that time, the deal didn't seem to work in Kemp's favor, and he didn't appreciate the guidance he got from his then agency. He would hold out of training camp for 22 days before the 96-97 season, which would be his last in Seattle. Kemp didn't appreciate the team as well for not allowing him to renegotiate his terms, and the relationship soured. He was traded to the Cavaliers in 97 after losing in the first round to the Suns. It was his final 3 prime years of his career, and maybe could have been extended had he stayed in the stable environment of Seattle, who had championship hopes every year, opposed to Cleveland, where they struggled to make the playoffs, missing 2 out of 3 in his time there. As we all know, in this time, Kemp also began to struggle personally, and his career nosedived from then on. Stunt number 2, drug and alcohol abuse. After leaving Seattle, Kemp lost all motivation, not being on a contender, instead having to live in Cleveland.
You like it? You think Cleveland's cool. I mean, I never heard anybody say, I'm going to Cleveland on vacation. I mean, what's so good about Cleveland?
In the lockout-shortened 98-99 season, Kemp showed back up weighing 315 pounds from his prime 230-pound weight. Many speculate that it was because around this time, the alcohol and drug use got out of hand and took a toll on his body. In 42 games that year, he averaged a career-high 20 points a game and 9 rebounds. In 2000, he was traded to the Portland Trail Blazers, as if he couldn't be sent to another death sentence team in that era. His play declined significantly, and in his first year, he actually checked into rehab and missed the tail end of the season. Kemp averaged 6 points a game over his 2 years with the team. During and by this time, he was losing money dealing with his drug abuse struggles, along with the spending it took to keep his multiple baby mothers happy through child support that reportedly was the main reasons he went broke. We understand that the reality of America is that it's not fair when it comes to the court system heavily favoring the mothers by having fathers overpay for support of these kids, so you have to be careful with who you put in position to take on that motherly role. You also can't compound that with alcohol and cocaine abuse, which could be very costly, especially the latter. He would be arrested and caught with cocaine and marijuana multiple times over his career, and it cost him to gain weight, lose jobs, his prime, and most importantly, his cheddar. Stunt number 3, ran out of gas. Drug use compounded with alcohol can take a real toll on your body and make a person who already struggled with weight like Shawn Kemp to really have a hard time in the long run. Kemp played a very solid 14 years in the league, but by his 11th and even his last in Cleveland, he looked like he just had enough of basketball and that he was over the hill physically and also mentally. If the NBA wasn't paying like it does, I don't think he would have continued to play his last 4 years. The drugs, compounded with lack of motivation physically and mentally, challenged Kemp, to which he lost that battle. In his final year in Orlando, he played in 79 games, which by this point was a complete money grab to support his habits and his 7 children because he looked washed respectfully in that year. No longer a high flyer, instead a bench guy and role player at best. He was just 33 years old by that time. Put that in perspective, KD is 31, Steph Curry 32. 33 years old still should be prime years, but when you carry your body the way Kemp did, those years don't treat you the same. Kemp would sit out from 2003 to 2005 to get himself together and had workouts thereafter with the Dallas Mavericks, Denver Nuggets, and Chicago. He didn't show up to his workout in Dallas, was overweight for his Denver opportunity, and didn't show up to his workout in Chicago. Kemp was gassed. He made one final attempt to play professionally in Italy, and after 3 preseason games, returned home. He would invest in a few restaurants after playing, some that folded, and currently invested in another that's doing pretty well. All in all, Kemp and none of these players completely lose every dime, and has made more money than most will ever see. But to lose the majority of $90 million is definitely a lesson to be shared and learned. Salute to Shawn Kemp. I wish him nothing but the best, and I hope he's doing well in these years in his life. But for these reasons, at some point, he went broke and his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth, and I'm out.